Welcome back, everyone. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at something you might actually have sitting in a tiny, carefully guarded little jar in your pantry right now. We're talking about saffron. Gram for gram, it is literally the most expensive spice in the entire world. And the story behind it? Well, it's this incredible biological and economic mystery. So let's get into it. $600. Yeah, you heard that right. That is the kind of serious sticker shock you can expect to face for just a single ounce of high-quality saffron. Now, to put that into perspective, an ounce is what? Roughly the weight of a single slice of bread. It's an absolutely staggering contrast between physical weight and astronomical value. I mean, when you're paying upwards of 600 bucks an ounce, you aren't just paying for flavor, right? You're paying for something much, much deeper. And that leads us directly to the core mystery of our explainer today. Why has this stuff, affectionately known as red gold, held on to this immense astronomical value for literally thousands of years? We aren't just talking about some modern culinary trend here. We're talking about a truly ancient commodity. To understand the wild economics of saffron, we kind of have to play botanical detective for a minute because the very first clue is hidden deep inside its DNA. Section 1. A sterile genetic anomaly. So the plant that produces this magical little spice is scientifically known as Crocus sativus. Sometime in the distant ancient past, this specific plant underwent a very strange seed mutation that actually left it with an extra set of chromosomes. Now, in the plant kingdom, an extra set of chromosomes is a massive disruption. It essentially threw a giant wrench into the plant's natural evolutionary path and completely broke its ability to function like a normal flower. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the absolute irony of the whole situation. Here we have arguably the most valuable plant on Earth, and it's a total evolutionary dead end. Because of those extra chromosomes we just talked about, sexual reproduction is biologically impossible. The saffron crocus is completely sterile. It cannot produce viable seeds. So the only way this incredibly prized plant can continue to exist is through manual cloning by human hands. Honestly, if humanity disappeared tomorrow, this poor, genetically confused little flower would go extinct right along with us. So how exactly do we keep it alive, right? Well, the answer is the corm. The corm is simply the underground stem of the saffron crocus. Since the flower can't drop seeds, human farmers literally have to dig up this underground stem, physically divide it into pieces by hand, and then carefully replant those pieces back into the soil to grow the next generation. It's a plant that relies 100% on intense human intervention for its very survival. Let's just quickly summarize the biological stakes here because they are truly mind-bending. The plant is completely sterile. It is propagated manually by cloning that underground corm. And because of this unbroken chain of manual propagation, all modern saffron crocuses are functionally identical clones. That means every single saffron thread you've ever seen or tasted or smelled comes from an exact genetic copy of that very first mutated plant from ancient history. It is quite literally a living artifact. Section 2. Staggering logistics and labor. Okay, the number one, I want you to keep this number in your head. For the next few slides, we're going to be looking at the exact mathematics and logistics required to produce just 1 single kilogram of dry saffron. I know it sounds like a small amount, but trust me, in the world of red gold, 1 kilogram is an absolute mountain. Let's see how this builds into just this almost insurmountable agricultural challenge. Step 1. The workers must wake at dawn. This timing, it's totally non-negotiable because the blooming flowers are incredibly fragile and the harsh midday sun will actually degrade the precious chemical compounds inside the spice. Okay, step 2, they must hand pluck a mind-boggling 150,000 delicate flowers. And finally, step 3, carefully extract the 3 tiny hair-like threads from the center of each blossom. This entire process is completely mechanization-proof. If you tried to use a machine, it would just shred the delicate threads to pieces. It has to be done by gentle human hands. And all of that meticulous, dawn-lit plucking and extracting, it amounts to over 400 hours of intensive manual labor. Think about that for a second. Imagine working 10 standard, full-time, back-breaking 40-hour work weeks. That is the sheer amount of human time and energy poured into the soil and the sorting tables just to yield that single kilogram we mentioned a minute ago. So the crucial point is this staggering equation. 150,000 delicate flowers plus over 400 hours of unmechanized, intense manual labor equals just 1 single kilogram of saffron. When you lay the math out like that, it completely justifies the $600 per ounce price tag. You aren't just buying dried flower parts here, you're literally buying weeks of skilled human life and labor. Section 3, a rich and lethal history. You know, humanity has been absolutely obsessed with this spice across history. Back in ancient Egypt, saffron was the ultimate symbol of opulence. In fact, Queen Cleopatra famously bathed in saffron-infused waters to give her skin a supposedly legendary golden glow. Fast forward to the medieval era, and the spice was so critical to the economy that authorities in Nuremberg actually executed fraudsters who were caught selling fake saffron. Talk about a tough crowd, right? I mean, it was a deadly serious business. And that brings us right up to the modern day, where it proudly retains its crown as the most expensive spice in the world, regularly demanding those upward of $600 an ounce price tags we've been talking about. Which leaves us with this final thought. We started out trying to solve the mystery of red gold's insane value. We've uncovered the broken, sterile biology that forces us to clone it by hand. We've calculated the astronomical hundreds of hours of agonizing labor required just to yield a single kilogram. And we've seen how its value has driven everything from ancient royal beauty routines to lethal medieval justice. Knowing the ancient mutations, the extreme labor, and the bloody history behind every single thread, will you ever look at this red gold the same way again the next time you see it in a recipe? I know I for sure won't. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you next time.